Welcome to Furniture Redesigned by MBM. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the project that I'm working on today. Today I'm at a client's house, and a few months ago I did some end tables for her. This is the table that I was trying to match. However, she dropped it out of her truck. So the top of it has some cracks in it. So thus far what I've done is taken some wood filler and filled in those cracked areas and also where it's chipped here on the corner. Now the body of the table is still really good. So what I want to do is let this wood filler dry, and I'm going to come back and sand it away. So if you guys want to see how I straighten this out, make sure you stay tuned. And also, I'll give you a look at the room that I'm working on. I am back, and the wood filler is dry. I have my sanding paper here. Now I want to try to smooth out the wood filler so that the top of the table is smooth. I'll be using 150 grit sandpaper here, and of course I can't use a sander. I have to sand everything by hand. So I'm going to get down here and get started sanding everything smooth. So I used 150 grit sandpaper, and this is what it's looking like. But to smooth out everything, I'm going to go ahead and take this 220 grit sandpaper, and I just want to sand it again. And this is to make sure my surface is smooth. I'll do that off camera, but this is the paint that I'll be using for today. I'm using heirloom paint, and this is what I used on the previous tables. I'll be using it in the color Bone. Now this is an all-in-one paint, so I don't have to primer. If you're out there watching and you like this type of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. So I'm just smoothing out the first coat of paint with long, even strokes. I'm going to let this dry and we'll come back for the second coat. It's been about 2 hours and now I'm adding my second coat of paint. Again, it's going on a bit textured, but it will smooth out and level out. Once I have the paint on, I'm using those long, even strokes, rolling very lightly to level out the paint. I'm going to let it dry and come right back. Hey everyone, I'm back, and as you can see, I'm not in the client's home. I am in my garage. I had to bring the table home because it really needed to sand, and I needed my sander, but I couldn't do this in her home. I had did some tables before her for her in a dark brown, this table was the table that I was matching up. I also did some artwork for her in the same colors, and they are now hanging in her home. But we just need this table to look good. So here it is closer, and you can see where she cracked it and where I tried to fill in. And you can see those imperfections. So we're going to pull out the sander, and we're going to try to sand all of this smooth and fill it once more. So here again is a closer look. You can see where I did before. I tried to fill in those cracks. I don't know if you're picking it up because it's white and with the light, but where I'm showing you where my hand is going, these are where the deep cracks are in the table, and it's quite a few of them that's veining out. And I want to try to sand it as smooth as possible. Again, I think the top of this table is more of a particle board as opposed to wood. So we're going to use the orbital sander and sand it back as smooth as possible. I have 150 grit sandpaper on it, and I'm just going to start to peel back and see what this is.
Now I might have to get heavier grit. I'm starting with that 150 because I don't want to tear it up and I don't have to.
So all the sanding is done, and if you look in closer, you can see where I did sand through, and you can see some of the particle board, but you don't see any more of the cracks or lines that we saw before. So because I'm down to the particle board here, I'm going to take this DAP plastic wood, and I just want to go over the top of those spots because I don't want it to show when I start to paint. So let's get these filled in and sand it back. Now I'm going to give that a couple minutes to dry, and I'll come back and I'll sand that again. I just want to make sure that when I put my primer on it that everything is covered smooth. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay. So I went ahead and added 2 coats of the white primer to the top of the table, and by looking at it, it looks pretty smooth. Now it is a little dark outside, it's in the evening, but this is what it's looking like. So we're going to just let this dry. I use the Fast Time interior primer by Zinsser, and this is the synthetic primer, and it should cover really well. So we're going to let this dry, and then we'll come back and we'll add our paint. I'll just go ahead and let it dry overnight, and hopefully we got all of those imperfections out of the top of the table. So I'll see you tomorrow. I'm back outside and the table is dry. So I took my 340 grit sandpaper and I was just going through sanding back any imperfections that I still felt in the table. So this is what I'm doing now, and then we'll wipe it off and we'll be ready to add our paint. The paint I'll be using today is All-in-One Paint by Heirloom, and this is the color Bone. Now, I did use this again on the 2 tables that I did for her to match this table. So now this should be really easy with the primer on and everything smoothed out. Let's just go ahead and get our paint on the tabletop. I'm going to use the same nap roller, but before we add the paint, let's go ahead and make sure that we have all the dust wiped off the table. Now this little spot here looks like something had got in my paint, but I sanded it and I just wanted to make sure that it was smooth, and it is. So let's go ahead and get this paint on the table. And you see I'm doing it the lazy way. I'm just pouring it on the table, and we're just gonna roll it out. Now this paint, of course, is self-leveling, so I just want to get it on and then I'll go back over it one more time. Now, even though I color matched this, I'm trying not to get too much to flow over the edge because the colors are not exactly the same and I don't want to have to paint the whole table.
Now I want to just smooth, go in one direction with my paintbrush all across the top of the table.
All right, I'm gonna let the first coat dry, and as you can see, it does have a texture, but this is just because of the paint. So we're gonna let this level out and come back after it dries. So I'll see you in a little bit. So I've added 2 coats of the paint to the tabletop and it's looking really good. But I also decided to add a top coat. Even though I used the heirloom paint, which doesn't require a top coat, because this is a tabletop, I want to make sure that it's completely covered and that if it were to get water or something on it, that it will be protected. So I'm going to pull out my top coat and I'll be using the Varathane top coat, and I added a little bit to the tray, and I'm using the same roller that I used to add my paint. And all it's doing is just mixing a little bit of the paint into the top coat. And this will allow it to go on smooth and not show as many streaks. So let's get the 1 coat on. I'll probably wind up doing 3 coats because again, I want to make sure that it's covered from water damages. All right, that's my first coat. We're going to let it dry. Again, I'm going to add another 2 coats and I'll do it off camera. I'm going to try to get this to the client's house. And hopefully when you see it again, it will be in her living room. You'll also see the matching tables that I did and the artwork that I did for her in her living room. I'll see you then. I'm here in the client's home and it's just she and I, and we couldn't get the table up her stairs because of the awkward shape of it. But she was so gracious to let me film the pictures that I did and also the tables that I did for her. So just keep watching, and when she gets the table upstairs, she'll send some pictures and I'll insert those pictures for the end of this video. I do hope you like the work that I have done for her in her home. And here is a look at the wooden tables. They were brown, and I did paint them with that same bone heirloom paint for her and added the texture to match the barrel table that you saw me do in my garage. And again, the pictures with that same texture on the wall. I'll leave a link to those 2 tutorials in the description box below. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day. God bless, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.